I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. After a series of bias attacks on Staten Island, how Hispanics there are doing.
We come here, we want a better life, and they have the right to be here as well.
We go into the deep to talk about Respect Life Month.
The understanding of life itself is really at stake. What is life?
And will a murder in the Cathedral make a killing at the box office? We'll talk to the people behind this innovative production.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Residents on Staten Island's North Shore are keeping a watchful eye following a series of violent attacks on Mexicans in the area going all the way back to April. The police are out in full force in the neighborhood, and the district attorney is asking the immigrant community for its help.
And religious leaders are also stepping up. We recently had a chance to speak with these men and women of different faiths about the situation and what's being done to address it.
You're here in Port Richmond, Staten Island, which is a multi-ethnic, multicultural community, a beautiful community to live and work in. This community has had its share of struggles, especially because this is also an impoverished community, as beautiful and as loving a community as it is. In the mid-90s, we began to see new immigrants arrive, mostly from Mexico, as a result of day laboring opportunities that have made themselves available here along Port Richmond Avenue. But like in all new immigrant groups that come into a neighborhood and the landscape changes, you know, it's presented some issues of threat and the perception of radical change for people who've been here for many years.
There were 11 hate crimes in this area of Staten Island, in one borough, in one part of one borough. And that really got the police attention. And what they wanted to do, fortunately, there was not retaliation. And they wanted to show the community that was being attacked, that is the Hispanic community, that they needn't retaliate, that they were being supported by the police. And that quelled that. Otherwise, it could have been an explosion.
In the North Shore of Staten Island, our unemployment rate is somewhere about 21%. Okay, so where there are no jobs for people, it's very hard to see new people coming in from other countries and finding work, because there are people sitting home that have no work, many people. We need to be sure that no one is marginalized in this community and everyone understands and is cared for as one family.
We're trying to undo hate in the community by bringing people together, get them to know one another and see the gifts of the people.
There's a tremendous amount of hope in this community. We've never lost sight of that, because we understand that it's not the community, it may be individuals, but that doesn't represent the entire community. This has been a community that has embraced diversity.
The tensions that have gone on this summer, or recently, both with the hate crimes in the Port Richmond area and the mosque debating in Midland Beach and in Lower Manhattan, are very saddening. And it's just really sad that people can't see beyond the way they feel to see the other person with true compassion.
I am certain that no one in this congregation here is, of course, guilty of the kind of violence against members of minorities that we've been reading about in the newspapers and seeing on TV. But it is important for each one of us to see all people as Jesus sees them, and not let stereotypes or preconceived notions dictate how we think and feel about them and interact with them.
All of us as immigrants, you know, we come here, we want a better life, and they have the right to be here as well. I feel that the church should have a big impact, seeing how we can make a difference so this violence can stop.
A troubling situation there, but also some promising signs and a lot of people trying to make it better. Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up straight ahead. When we return, we'll have the day's headlines,
including growing concerns about hate crimes in Europe against Christians. That and more next.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up later, a Brooklyn church is the setting for a murder in the Cathedral. We'll take you there.
But first, let's turn to the day's headlines. Well, good news for your wallet. The price of a postage stamp will not be going up after all. The Postal Regulatory Commission Thursday voted down a request to raise the price of a first-class stamp from 44 cents to 46 cents. The Postal Service said in July it requested the increase to help it deal with the worsening economy. The regulatory panel voted unanimously to deny the increase. The move also comes as good news for parishes in the Brooklyn Diocese that rely on the Postal Service to send out mass mailings on a weekly or monthly basis. Now, reports say postal officials may resubmit the rate hike request. Well, today is the first day of Respect Life Month, and embryonic stem cell research has long been at the center of the debate on life issues. Well, a research team in Boston has announced it found a new way to produce stem cells without destroying an embryo. The team's report says researchers found a way to use natural human molecules to turn skin cells into cells that look identical to embryonic stem cells. Researchers also said their method is proving to be much quicker and a lot more efficient as well than other methods of producing stem cells in a lab. Pro-life groups, including the Catholic Church, oppose embryonic stem cell research because they say it destroys human life. We'll have much more on Respect Life Month coming up later in the show. Well, back here in New York, jurors convicted a Manhattan man of identity theft, forgery, harassment, and nearly 30 other counts. Raphael Golb is the son of a scholar. His father researched the origins of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And prosecutors said Golb used fake email accounts and wrote blog posts under assumed names to try to discredit his father's detractors amid heated debate over the issue. Defense attorneys argued Golb wrote in satire, though. They said that his actions amounted to just some online banter instead of a crime. Golb's father and another professor have reportedly disagreed over the origins of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which contain portions of the earliest versions of the Bible, for years. In Florida, an assistant coach for a Pee Wee League football team is fighting to stop pregame prayers. Reports say the prayers started 4 years ago, but now Louis Fromm has asked the Vernon, Florida City Council to put an end to them. Fromm says since the games are played on public land, city leaders should stop the practice. But league officials, though, say they take no government money and are a private organization, so the prayers should continue. Fromm says some players have harassed his son, who also plays on one of the teams, because he does not participate in the prayers.
Catholic bishops in Europe are urging leaders in the European Union to put an end to anti-Christian persecution. The bishops say 75% of religious hate crimes are against people of the Christian faith, making them the most persecuted religious group. The prelates urge the EU to take some of the responsibility for the protection of religious freedom all across the world. The bishops of Europe will host a conference on religious persecution August 5th, featuring speakers from the Sudan, Iraq, and India. Leaders of 2 European countries are scheduled to meet with the Pope and meet with Pope Benedict in the next couple of months. French President Nicolas Sarkozy will meet with the Pontiff on October 8th at the Vatican. Benedict will travel to Spain for a 2-day pastoral visit in November. He will meet with Spanish President José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero on November 7th. The French president may be traveling to the Vatican in the coming days, but if such a trip does not fit into your budget, you can experience at least one remarkable sight on the World Wide Web. We get details now from Rome Reports.
If you want to visit the tomb of St. Peter and the Vatican necropolis, it's no longer necessary to book tickets and travel to Rome. The Vatican website now offers an exciting virtual tour through interactive high-quality images. With just one click, you can skip the queues and get into the foundations of St. Peter's Basilica. The virtual tour also includes explanations of the most relevant details to the necropolis and a map showing your location at all times within the necropolis towards the tomb of St. Peter. You will have one of the best guides possible for your visit, Cardinal Angelo Comastri, president of the Fabrica of St. Peter's, which looks after the necropolis. An amazing look at the origins and construction of St. Peter's Basilica, available from any computer in the world.
And finally, another saint is paying a visit to Manhattan for a couple of days. A relic of St. Don Bosco made its way to St. Patrick's Cathedral today for veneration by the faithful. Our cameras were there.
We're here ready to welcome the relics of St. Don Bosco. He's the founder of the Salesian religious order, and his relics are going all over the world in preparation for the 200th anniversary of his birth.
The cooperators were founded by Don Bosco, so we're here to adore and pay homage to our saint. And he had a love for the youth. And in this day, our youth is so important.
In some way, he is a way for me to become holy and to follow God.
We will be the witnesses that you, Don Bosco, are the friend of the young and the poor. Lead us safely through the storm to the heavenly shore.
As Catholics, we believe in the resurrection of the body. Well, this is part of the body of a saint who is close to God already, who is in heaven, and we know will have a glorified body. And so it's the most natural expression of both our faith and our humanity.
Today there are 17,000 Salesians throughout the world, 15,000 Salesian sisters, 30,000 Salesian cooperators. Don Bosco's mission relies on young people to take the baton and to continue to say, yes, Don Bosco, we have received your message, and now we want to bring it to the next generation.
Archbishop Timothy Dolan celebrated Mass at the Cathedral earlier this evening, but there is still time for you to head over and see the relic. St. Patrick's is open for veneration until 11 o'clock tonight and again tomorrow morning from 6:30 until 10. Then it moves on to its next stop, Chicago.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up.
Just ahead, this time of year is all about life, and Bishop DiMarzio is here to talk about it.
When does life begin? Can we tamper with life? Can we create life? These are all real questions today.
Welcome back. Well, October 1st begins Respect Life Month, an effort within the church to bring greater awareness to respecting life from conception to natural death.
And joining us to go into the deep on this important issue is Bishop DiMarzio. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bishop.
Good to be here again.
On Currents. We know that life issues can really run the spectrum from end-of-life issues to abortion. Talk to us about your assessment of life issues right now in the country and in the state, and also whether you think things are getting better or worse.
Well, better or worse? That's a good question. I think we have to be ever vigilant because although there are some gains at times, it seems like we take one step forward and two backwards. The understanding of life itself is really at stake. What is life? Is life worth living? When we come to the end of life issues, when does life begin? Can we tamper with life? Can we create life? These are all real questions today. They're not just theoretical. So. And again, unless you start from a philosophical starting point, as our Catholic social teaching tells us, we have the respect for every human life, the dignity of every human life. Unless you have some kind of a starting point, you can't really get lost, because many times the starting point is compassion. Compassion is good. We need to have compassion. But in the name of compassion, people kill other people. So it really is a challenging issue today. And unless we have, as I say, a common starting point, which is difficult to come by in our society, which has many different ways people come at understanding society and understanding moral issues, we are ever vigilant because it's not getting better, I don't think.
Right. It's not easy, especially in the political climate in which we live right now. And I mean, this has been a part of public debate for a long time. Of course, as part of that public debate, people usually just talk about abortion and issues surrounding abortion. But the end of life, as you had mentioned before, it doesn't seem to come up nearly as much in public debate. How do you think the church can go about maybe changing that?
Well, we need to be sure that the church respects all life and that we are advocates for life at every stage of its development, before it is born and before it dies. So our agenda has been always on the whole of the issue. Clearly, the issue that is most pressing today is abortion. In our country, over 1 million abortions a year are performed. That's 1 million lives that are ended. In the latest gubernatorial campaign in our own state, just the other day, we had the NARAL, which is pro-abortion coming out for one of the candidates and saying that the other candidate certainly will not have the same wonderful ideas about making the right to abortion part of the law. So it is part of the debate. We can't avoid it, and I think we have to be very careful that the church is not categorized as just being anti-abortion. We have a larger agenda which is there, and it's for the record, is always there. So we have to make sure that life is respected at all stages.
Bishop, how do you recommend that ordinary Catholics go about respecting life, as you say?
Well, I guess we start with our own life. You have to respect your own life, number one. And then you go from there. You understand what the value of life is in all the various areas. And it creeps up on us sometimes that we don't understand how we will be challenged if we're signing advanced directives and before we go into the hospital, or if we're aging, we want to know, what should we do? What are the extraordinary means to preserve life? Or on the other side, people contemplate abortion because of certain reasons. They feel compelled. What are we doing to make sure that there are alternatives for women who are contemplating abortion? So it's really a big agenda, and all Catholics, I think, have to take it seriously, and wherever they can intervene in defending life, they should.
All right. Well, Bishop DiMarzio, as we start off Respect Life Month here, thank you so much for joining us.
You're
We
welcome.
really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Well, we have much more on our website. Just go to currentsny.net. Check out our blog. It's called Riding the Wave.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When we return, a real-life church is the setting for a classic play. We'll go behind the scenes of Murder in the Cathedral.
This is a wild character, if you want to call the building a character.
Finally tonight, we take you to an innovative production of a classic play where one of the leading roles is actually played by a church.
The church is St. Joseph's Church in Brooklyn, and the play is T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral. It's about the assassination of Thomas Becket in Canterbury Cathedral some 800 years ago. Now, in this production, all of the action takes place throughout the massive church, from the altar to the aisles and even in the confessionals.
We dropped by last night to see if this murder slays the audience and to find out how this unique production came about.
One neat thing about theater that sets it apart from, film or TV or anything is that in the audience, you're actually part of the whole experience. And I think this play really, this production of this play does a lot with that because you're sitting in the pews amid all the action going on all around you.
The play has this character, which is the church, and I think everyone kind of agrees that you have the weird experience of almost being there, but not being there.
This is a wild character, if you want to call the building a character. It's something that you can't get to know on your first try. There's a lot of blocking that takes us all around the space.
You have a murder, spoiler, but and that's really exciting. But before that, there's a lot of sort of cerebral, intellectual, thoughtful text.
I think that when I first walked in here 2 years ago as the administrator, it just brought me back to my days in high school when I had read this play, and I just said, we really need to stage Murder in the Cathedral here at St. Joseph.
It's a play by T.S. Eliot about Thomas Becket, the Archbishop Thomas Becket, who was assassinated for his beliefs by the king at the time.
It's hard to imagine this particular play being done in a standard theater, in part because I think the power of him actually being slain on the altar is something that would be really difficult to recreate in a regular theater.
We live in a community where many, many artists live, and my goal was to kind of let artists know that the church has always been a patron of the arts, and we're going to continue to be a patron of the arts because this is a very powerful expression, a medium in which people can learn about God.
So we said, well, if we can pull this off, we want to make it free. And then we realized at a certain point that we did want to suggest some kind of a donation in order to be able to get through operating costs as we needed to. But we thought, if we can actually get in the different groupings of people that we're hoping to get in, We know that some people will throw in a 20 because they understand the caliber of theater that it is and they're used to paying more for theater. We know that other people might not think it's worth that. Other people might want to pay what they pay to go to a movie. I think that we're putting up really professional theater that is a sort of pay what you can type scale.
It's interesting to do theater, to kind of put theater in people's way, you know, like, because there are a lot of people that come in to see this that I imagine might not see a lot of theater.
I think people who would normally feel like they are not welcome at a Catholic church feel like they're welcome here. And I think that people who might not feel like theater is something that they would enjoy can come and enjoy it.
Well, this has really been successful beyond our wildest imaginations. I mean, when you think about it, again, this is a parish with 300 parishioners. But what Alec and Hillary have put together is really a play that has been reviewed by the New York Times very favorably, Time Out, the Brooklyn Paper, the Daily News. I mean, you can't imagine that the interest in this, and so I'm grateful for them, and you can be sure that we're going to try to do this again.
What a great performance.
I know, and any time, and she was right there, that you can't recreate that atmosphere on a stage, that, you know, in another venue, it's just almost impossible to do. So having a play like that in a venue like that is just amazing. And I can imagine, you know, you've got things going on all around, and you know, you're kind of looking around wondering, okay, where's the action going to come from next? It's got to be a really great experience just to be in there in that audience.
Yeah, and also, like she said, it's exposing other people to the cathedral. I mean, it's bringing in people that wouldn't normally go there. Obviously, some of them are not going to be Catholic, but some of them may be lapsed Catholics or people of other faiths, and it's always nice to be able to expose them to such an amazing building as well.
Yeah, yeah, and well, and St. Joseph's it's you know, it's been around for a long time, and as you saw there, very, very beautiful facility. Well, the play is running through October 10th at St. Joseph's Church.
That is it for us for tonight. Remember, we are always online at currentsny.net, and you can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Until next time, I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night, and also have a great weekend.
Enjoy.